Usually the container only does one job at a time. Usually the container by convention does only one job at a time. Okay, so now that we have Docker installed, what do we do with it? Let's start a command prompt. I have a link to the command prompt here on my taskbar. Usually when you start the command prompt, it starts up with a black screen. You can also find it on your start menu down here in Windows System and command prompt. Now I have this one set up with different colors, so it'll be easier for you to watch on the screen. Okay, so everything we do with Docker, we have to start with the word Docker. Okay, so here's some small commands to get started with. Docker version shows us what version we're running, and then we can also run a version like this, dash dash, and the whole word basically does the same thing. So this type of thing is kind of confusing. Well, which one do I use? It doesn't really matter. It's just a personal preference. I think what's going on here is, see, there's Docker -v. This type of thing would be like a Unix switch. This thing here is called a switch -v. We're telling Docker to do something and go out and get the version. This is the same thing, but this is more of like a Java way of doing a switch. So I think they're trying to please both worlds, Unix and Java. Whichever a person is more used to doing, the switches will still work. But when you first get started, that type of thing might be a little confusing. Okay, here's one for Docker help. It just shows you the different commands that are available. So we got a long printout here. Docker-h. So here it says flag shorthand -h has been deprecated. That means they're doing away with it. It's old-fashioned. Please use -- help. Okay, this deprecated stuff is real common in the computer world. As things get old, they replace them with the new stuff, but they leave the old stuff in for the people that still might be using the old stuff. So it takes a long time to take the stuff out of an application. So this just shows the commands that are available. Don't try to learn them all in one day. I'm just going through these real quickly. There's a CLS. Go CLS. We'll clear the screen. You can use your arrow keys to go through the commands you've already run. You don't have to type them all in again. And then go CLS. Let's Okay, so what I did here was I ran the help, and then this means I sent it to C:, into the Docker folder, and I named the file helpfile.txt. So if I go to this folder here, I now have a text file with all those commands. And I just thought you might like that if you want to refer to these later. You don't always have to run it on the command prompt. Okay. When you copy items from the command prompt, select it here, and then click on here and go edit copy. So then you can copy items from the command prompt. And I'll put that down here. Okay. So that's kind of cool. Docker images. See, we're saying run Docker and run the images command. To CLS. I like to clear the screen so I can. It helps me keep track of what I'm doing. Lots of people don't bother to clear the screen. They're just always working down here at the bottom. So, okay, so we'll run Docker images, and this shows my repository on my local computer, on my desktop. Okay, so you can see the storage area on my local computer, my repository. It's empty now. There's no Docker images inside of it. We're going to download some as we go through the video. Okay, we already talked about CLS to clear the screen. We talked about switching container types. Okay, so here we're saying switch to the Windows containers. So let's check this and see where we are. Let's check the Docker menu and see where we are. Okay, so we're currently in Linux containers. We want to switch to Windows containers because we're going to download Windows images. Okay, I'll say that again. We're currently using Linux containers. We're going to switch to Windows containers because we want to download Windows images. So I'll click this. It says switch to Windows containers. You are about to switch to Windows containers. Existing containers will continue to run, but you will not be able to manage them until you switch back to Linux containers. No data will be lost otherwise. Do you want to continue? Yes, switch. Sometimes when you switch, it takes a minute or two, and when you hover over this, it'll say Docker is switching. But you can see we're already in Windows containers. So the switch from Linux to Windows containers happened really quick. Okay, so first let's run a hello world image. What Docker does is they offer a starter image. It's called hello world. Usually when you learn a new programming language, they usually start with a small application called hello world. By convention, it's just a tradition, and it's a good check to make sure your program is working. Okay, let's see, let's go to the Docker Hub. Okay, so the Docker Hub is the main place to find images, and you can see they have the common ones here. Usually click on see all official images, and then you get a list like this. Okay. Here's the Hello World image. Let's click on this area. And here's the web page for the Hello World image. This is the link that you can use to download the image. You can copy this, right click and select, or if you just click on this icon, it copies it to your clipboard. Okay, and then we can come back to our command prompt and just right click and it'll put that in. And then press the enter key. Docker downloads the image. Should only take a minute or two. Most of them come down pretty quick. Some of the images are pretty big files, so they might take a while. When Docker is done downloading the file, we can use the arrow key to go back to the pull command and just change this to run. So Docker run hello world, press enter. Okay, so usually this Docker run hello world is instantaneous. For some reason it took a little while on my computer. It seems to be running just a little slow. So this is all the hello world program does. It gives you this printout. Okay, so that's basically the process of Docker. So here, first we did a pull. And I'll go ahead and copy that here. I'll copy it. Paste. And then I'll come back and get the run. So this is Docker Hub. So this is a Docker Hub hello world. Okay. Okay, so that's normally how we pull and run an image. Of course there's more to it, but that's basically it. Here, this next part, we're going to download one from the Microsoft website. Okay, so next we'll download Hello World from the Microsoft website, just to follow my text file here. Let's go to this link. So you can see we're on Docker Hub, hub.docker.com for Microsoft. Okay. And then here's our area where we can get the link. So I'll click on that. Okay, so pull command copy to my clipboard on my local computer. Here's the information on the image. Here it says you can retrieve a full list of available tags for the Microsoft Hello World at this link here. Okay. Here it says to run the Docker image, use this command. That's the one we copied to our desktop. So that would be this guy here. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this. I'll clear the screen here. Copy that in. I just right click and it copies that command in. Press enter. Okay. Okay, so what's going on here? It says using the default tag latest. Latest is pulling, and then it says here image operating system Linux cannot be used on this platform. Here, this command won't pull on Windows containers. Okay, because Hello World is based on Linux. Okay, so using the Docker menu, switch to Linux containers. So we'll come back here, right click and switch to a Linux container. Yes, switch to Linux containers. Okay, so now we're using Linux containers. Okay, just to follow my text file here. If we run Docker images, there's nothing in our repository for Linux. We're using Linux containers. Now we'll run this pull command. It pulled the Hello World image, and let's run Docker images again. So you can see now we have the image in our local repository. Okay, when we ran Docker images up here, it was empty. We downloaded the image, ran Docker images again. Now we have one item in our repository. Okay, and now we'll run the image. Okay, so here's Hello World from the run command that we ran here. You can tell it wants Linux containers because of this guy here. They're talking about Ubuntu. That's a version of Linux. These are just suggestions on other things that you can do. Okay, here I'll clear the screen, run Docker images again here. So this is the image ID number. Let's say you download a lot of images and there's a lot of stuff piling up here. You might want to delete some. So here's how to delete an image. I'll copy this guy here, paste it in. I'll copy the image ID, right click and paste it in. This remove image and -F. -F means force it. For some reason they have it set up to where you have to use the force. Okay, and it said the image was deleted. I'll run Docker images again just to show that it's gone. So now it's gone. See, the image we had up here is now gone. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of downloading and running Hello World. Okay, so I'll clear the screen. Now we'll get into the main section of this video, and that's working with PowerShell core.